night before the murder, October 31st, 2007. Halloween in Perugia. Meredith Kircher dressed as a vampire and went to Merlin's, a local bar.
She was just always the life of the party. Anytime she smiled, you just felt happy.
Nathan Abraham worked in that bar, and that's where he met Meredith.
She was your regular college student girl. She liked to hang out with her friends, she danced, she went out to movies.
So 36 hours later, when Meredith's nearly naked body was discovered with her throat slashed, Nathan and everyone in town was shocked and more than a little frightened.
The center was a ghost town. Nobody would go out. People were kind of scared because you didn't know who the murderer was.
When police arrested Amanda Knox, Raffaele Sollecito, and Amanda's boss, Patrick Lumumba, everyone was stunned.
The police were suggesting that there had been some sort of sexual activity in the house.
Prosecutor Giuliano Menini had a theory. The day after Halloween, Meredith Kircher was murdered at the end of a drug-induced satanic orgy gone very, very wrong. In fact, at one point, investigators thought this bloody handprint at the crime scene was some sort of satanic symbol.
Amanda and Raffaele were intrigued by sex and violence. They've sort of hung themselves out to dry a little bit by their blogs, by their websites.
On her MySpace page, Amanda Knox called herself Foxy Knoxy and bragged about having multiple sex partners. This picture, taken at a military museum, became ammunition against her. On Raffaele's page, he expressed a fascination with serial killers.
I know that the police have been looking at these websites and taking apart everything that these two have said. To a certain degree, they haven't done themselves any favours by putting this stuff on the web for all to see.
But there was nothing incriminating in Patrick Lumumba's life.
Do you know Patrick Lumumba?
Yes, I knew Patrick Lumumba.
Describe him for me.
Very gentle and nice guy. To me, he's the most famous guy in Perugia, and everybody loves him.
So when Amanda named Lumumba as the killer during her interrogation, nobody other than the police could believe it.
He has a beautiful wife and a beautiful baby.
And it turned out Patrick had an airtight alibi.
I am in my bar. I was in the bar. When I closed the bar, I'm baking home.
With no physical evidence linking Patrick to the crime scene, police had no choice but to release him. Amanda and Raffaele stayed in jail. Police were still convinced 3 people had killed Meredith.
They'd found a fingerprint, didn't match with Raffaele, with Amanda, or with Patrick.
But it did match this man, 22-year-old Rudy Gaudet, a local thief known to carry a knife.
People knew who Rudy was. We found out he tried to rob one of our bartenders where he went into his house, had a little scuffle with a knife. It was one of those people you knew him, but you stayed a little bit far away from him.
On November 2nd, the day after the murder, Gaudet took a train north. 2 weeks later, he was tracked down in Germany, arrested, and returned to Italy. His story was pretty incredible. Gaudet told police that on the night of the murder, Meredith Kircher invited him to her house. They had sex, but he didn't kill her.
His story does seem rather fanciful, that he was in the bathroom and that he came out and he found Meredith had been stabbed and that some guy was running out of the room.
But Gaudet told police he couldn't identify the killer. Nor did he say anything about Amanda or Raffaele being at the house that night.
What's significant about what he said and didn't say?
Well, I think they have 5 instances where he specifically was asked about Amanda, and he said, yeah, I know who she is. She was not there. He repeatedly said she was not there.
But after repeated interrogations, Gaudet changed his story. pointing the finger at Amanda and Raffaele, saying the two of them killed Meredith in a dispute over money. Prosecutors still charged him with murder. Their theory, all three were involved. Gaudet would go on trial first.
Well, the trial sparked a great deal of interest both in Italy, the UK and the United States, as you can imagine.
The first trial lasted several weeks. Every day, Raffaele and Amanda were there.
There was just the judge. There was no jury.
Near the end, a surprise. Amanda asked to address the court.
I want to stress the fact that I'm innocent. Meredith was my friend, and I would never have hurt her. I'm not the person that the prosecutor says I am.
Once Amanda had finished her statement to the court, Prosecutor Manini simply stood up and said, "We are seeing crocodile tears." He then went on to speak for nearly 5 hours and painted a very graphic description of what he says happened that night.
An Italian magazine published drawings based on Manini's story that a drug-fueled sex party turned into a bizarre, satanic murder.
The prosecutor said Raffaele and Rudy were holding Meredith down, and then Amanda plunged the knife into her throat and was the hand that led to the murder.
In spite of the prosecutor's theory, Amanda and her family were still hoping that the judge would believe her, rule that Gaudet had acted alone, and set her and Raffaele free.
I'm hoping that this particular judge will be able to really see the lack of evidence and she'll be released.
Rudy Gaudet was found guilty and sentenced to 30 years. But then the judge crushed the hopes of Amanda and her family. She and Raffaele would not be released, and their trial would come next.
How worried are you about this?
I'm terrified. I'm terrified. We've had to put our trust into this system, and so far it doesn't seem to be working. I mean, we have to continue to hope that something's going to change and it's going to work and she's going to be released, but it's scary.